Utilising studios to film product videos is a great
Yes.
way at producing videos en masse.
Absolutely.
And, you can play around with different sets and scenes, but there are a lot of variables that are involved.
Absolutely there is.
I want to go through just some basics. If you are diving in, producing a product video in a studio, what should you be considering before you dive in and doing it? So let's start off with like the product itself. Like what kind of grasp do you need to have of the product and the brand that you're filming for before you go in and actually start filming it?
Yeah, so get to know it, if it's something as simple as a bottle of perfume, understand the dimensions of it, understand if it has certain reflective qualities, or if it's something more complicated, is it a board game, is it a chessboard, understand how many pieces there are, understand the mechanic of the game, because that's then going to infer how you create this narrative surrounding the entire game. Is it something technical? Is it a Bluetooth speaker, for instance? Like, does it have certain features which aren't apparently obvious when you just first pick up the product? Do you have to open a certain compartment? Or is it a teddy or a child's toy? Does it sit up on its own? I give you a shot of this teddy bear sat there looking all happy, but every time you put it down, it flops over. So what we would generally tend to suggest is have a few versions of the product. Don't be trying to do a product video and you only have one copy of the product.
Absolutely. You're asking for trouble there.
You are asking for trouble because you might need to alter it in some way that isn't obvious and changes how the product is actually used, or is trying to misrepresent what the product actually is and its capabilities, but it's going to allow you to create a fun shot and utilize the product within a video without you destroying the product, and then you can't film it anymore.
Yeah, and not just from a practical perspective, but get to know the brand as well, because you're telling the story of that brand. You are showing off how the product works. You need to understand it as well. It's not as simple as you've just got a physical item there that you're pointing the camera at. You are showing an audience what this product does, how it should be engaged with. So do some research, speak to the company, understand what it's like to be a consumer or a customer of that product, and go into it feeling like you are, because it'll help you so much in displaying it in the right way. Okay, what about the practicals of actually putting a set together? So you're in a studio, you've got your products. What kind of set design are we looking at, and how and what different ways can you go at actually creating this?
Well, first thing I'd say, use of the word studio can be a bit off-putting there. Like, you don't need a really high-end dedicated space to produce something really good. You just need a table is always a great place to start with. You need something to set the product on. And then think about the brand, think about the branding. Is there a way you can really force those brand colours in there? If they have like a really bright orange within their branding, you can get an orange paper scooped backdrop, utilise that to help to reinforce that brand identity for you. Do you have a nice big television, nice 4K display? You can set that behind the product to create a different scene that this product is set within. So then once you've established what your backdrop is, whether that's a scooped infinity background of a paper backdrop or a television, start thinking about what you want to surround the product with. If this is a small product, a small bottle of perfume, start to think about, okay, well, you don't want any props in there which are necessarily going to dwarf the product. You're looking to hero the product within this video. So you can, for instance, if you're showcasing, let's say, an action figure, something like that, think about, okay, what's contextual within that world, and how can I find props that aren't going to distract from the product but help to elevate the scene that it's within.
Yeah, and that's the point there, isn't it, with set design, is you want to create a world. And as you make the point, you can go a long way with a scooped coloured backdrop. That can do a lot just to pop that colour, get the branding in there and give a little visual flash and different dynamic. But with the set design and the props, think about the world you want that product to exist in, and what world you want the customer to exist in when they're looking at that product. So it only takes small tweaks here and there and small additions, but you've got to think about what world you want that product to be in. All right, camera angles. Come on, this is absolutely your bag. So cameras, obviously, we are filming on a camera. This is the main thing, pointing at the product. But what considerations are there when you are going into quite a fixed environment in a studio? What can you do, and what should you be planning going into it?
What you should be thinking about is good rule of thumb that we use, if there's no product movement, you need camera movement. Otherwise, you might as well just take a photograph. So think about ways that if you're having the camera tilt or pan from side to side, are you having it tracking along, are you having it sliding? These are all things that you might have to buy additional little bits of equipment for, but it can be done very simply. Some of it can be done in the edit as well. You can have it digitally zoom in on the product. And then start to think about what lenses you have access to. So you're going to want wide shots of the product, but you're going to want to mix them in with detailed close-ups as well, depending on specific features that you are trying to highlight. And that can either be done through a zoom lens, a macro lens. If you really don't have the access to particularly lots of equipment, maybe you're filming this on your phone, just physically getting your phone further in so you're getting those really detailed shots and the wider shots. It's just going to help create a more varied visual picture for you and give you more versatility in the edit. And then I'd say on top of that, it's thinking about, okay, so you've built this world, you've got this variety of camera angles going on, but if it's a product that it's tactile that a consumer would use, do you need a hand model? Do you need someone who's going to get physically in there with the hand? If it's a board game, rolling the dice, for instance. If it's a perfume, spritzing the, what would you call that? The spritzer?
The nozzle?
The nozzle,
Nozzle?
spritzing the nozzle. So, but then it's those who are thinking about whose hand you are actually going to use for this. I've been told that I have sausage fingers, so we don't typically use my hands.
Yeah, your hand model career never really took off,
No,
did
it didn't. Whereas you've got slightly more manicured hands than I do.
You have to look after them.
You have to look after them. Or if it's, you need think about whose hand you're using.
Yeah, absolutely. But these are things that are part of the planning.
Yeah,
so
cool.
yes, like you say, get your different camera angles in there, but know your limitations and plan this going into it. Because then you're not going into your shoot thinking that needs another close-up or it needs a bit more variety. But you've not thought about that before it, and you hash a shot together that you don't really have the equipment for. Whereas if you considered it, you could have known your limitations and thought of a work around it. Because that's the point in a studio. You're looking to create variety in a very closed-off, static situation, which you absolutely can do by all the ways you've described. But it's about considering that and knowing what you can do. What about, well, this is an ongoing consideration in video production, and the big question I'll put to you, how important is lighting?
Lighting's critical. What we do in video is we're essentially painting with light, is how I like to think about it. So light is your brush strokes that you're putting across your digital canvas.
Nice, it's poetic.
I'll try my best. So but the lighting has to be contextual to what the product is. If it's, for example, a Bluetooth speaker and the client wants to show but the main use we're using this Bluetooth speaker for is we want people to be using it at home when they're partying. So do you need to have some kind of disco lighting effect potentially going on in there? Is it a board game, which is maybe a D&D type thing? I was thinking about your lighting, but then any special effects you might want going in there, because smoke or haze moving across the scene, which your light can bounce off, again, to create that more eerie atmosphere. So it's all very contextual. It can be done very simply with just one or two lights, even a single light. You need to be able to play with shadow and play with depth. The worst thing you could potentially do is, for example, if you had an all-glass product sat in the middle there, set against a white backdrop. Now, you might want a white backdrop because, let's say it's for a beauty client, for instance, and they want to create this really nice, clean aesthetic, which it would work very well for them. If you overlight that product so much, you're going to lose the detail, you're going to lose the shadow. So don't be afraid to move your light around. Don't think, it has to be straight onto the products, then the product is as bright as it possibly is, because you're not going to get the details in there then. So don't be afraid to play around with your lighting. If you have access to a wide variety of lights, maybe you can cast different coloured lights across it. Fantastic. Maybe we can use gobos to create leaf shadows if that's contextual to the product. Absolutely go for it. But paint with light.
Lighting, very important, we're saying. Good. Finally, if you want to break free from the real world and get a few visual effects in there, what kind of role can green screen play in product videos in a studio?
It can help, I say, transport you into a different world. If you needed a floating product, for instance, you can mix green screen effects with practical effects. You could suspend the product on a fishing line, which you can very easily edit out. But you can have it spinning and floating in the air, set it against a green screen backdrop. Hey presto, remove that. You've then got it floating around in space, for example, or you can duplicate the product and have it moving across the screen in different ways. We've done that in the past, depending on a few different examples. So, but then it comes down to what level of editing you feel comfortable with. Rule of thumb that we always try to do is it's better to do something simple really, really well, and then learn through the process and then step up and step up. So if you are doing this on your phone, for example, you don't have much lighting, you might find green screens a little bit tricky to do. And it also depends on the product as well. Like trying to green screen something that's glass and see-through is incredibly difficult because you're going to end up removing the product itself. So think about your limitations and think about the limitations of the product itself.
Yeah, absolutely. So it just shows that there's a lot that can be done with product videos in the studio, but you've just got to make sure you consider your lighting, your set design, and your camera and your angles, knowing what you can achieve and what you're aiming to achieve. I think if you consider all this beforehand, we always go on about it, but pre-production is so crucial. Consider those 3 things before you go into it, and you'll see how much you can do in a studio setting for a product video.
I'll just finish off by saying, just have some fun with it as well. Like, a lot of trial and error you'll find. Like maybe you have to go back and reshoot. But if, for example, you're doing this in a bit of a makeshift setup just in your house or in the office, and you have the ability just to set it back up again and have another go, then just play around with it.
And that's the joy of building your own studio. Don't be put off by the word studio. It's a room that you set up to film videos in. So if you can create your own to test things in, the joy of it is you can go back and experiment. So play around with it, have some fun, make some videos.
Make some videos.
Fantastic.